The Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum was launched to inform, inspire, motivate diverse talent to join the energy workforce by intentional recognition of current female energy leaders who contribute to growing Florida's economy and the purposeful sharing of their professional journeys. We are creating opportunity. Join me each week as we meet new leaders in energy and listen to their important roles in an industry that is vital to the country's future. Hello, welcome to the show. So viewers, you know, each week we try to focus on different careers in the energy industry and try to really talk to different segments of the industry. And today we're focused on the Florida Municipal Power Agency and one of their power stars, Linda Howard. So Linda, I think you're the first chief financial officer that we've interviewed for the channel and for the podcast. Linda Howard is the CFO of the Florida Municipal Power Agency. And as you'll hear a little bit later, she's also an author, having just released her book this summer, which was probably had its challenges getting launched during COVID. Mm-hmm. Linda, I can't wait to hear all about that and what inspired you to write the book. But let's start from the beginning. Let's assume that people really don't know anything about FMPA and what you do and what your role is there. Do you want to talk about that?
Okay, well, I'll talk about FMPA first. And thanks, Lila, for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to be on your podcast or your YouTube today. FMPA is a joint action agency. We have 31 member cities, and we provide all or part of their energy needs, either through all requirements or some other special agreement. So we provide power for them. And our goal at the agency really is to provide low cost, clean power, reliable power to our members so they can then offer the low cost to their customers. In the state of Florida, we do have a large portion of our population who are low income. So the lower we can keep the energy costs, which is an essential thing that people need, the lower we can keep it, the lower our members can charge it to their customers, and thus everybody's happy. So really the clean, low cost, reliable power is our goal. And we just do all we can to get the prices low and keep the reliability coming. As the CFO here, I handle all matters financial, but of course, everything is financial. But I particularly oversee all of the accounting functions, the treasury functions, debt and investments, our internal audit function, our financial planning function, our budget function. So all of the financial areas of the agency are under my direct control, and have a lot of great people working for me. And then, of course, we work across the board with all the other directors and vice presidents here at FMPA. So a lot of great work by a lot of people. And the main goal is to get the energy to the customers of our 31 member cities.
Yeah, Linda, my saying always is it takes a village, and you just described your village there at FMPA. I have to tell you, your leader, who's fairly new, Jacob Williams, less than 5 years, probably.
4 years. 4 years. Mm-hmm.
Is such a champion for you, one of your great advocates, and really admires your work and what you've been able to do at FMPA with that village, and really just changing some of the financial dynamics at FMPA. What does it mean to have a champion within the organization in terms of your career path?
Oh, wow. That means everything, because with that support, it gives me the latitude to do some of the things that I have on my mind to do, but it also gives me confidence that I'm going to have support, even if it's not going to be perfect, because all of my decisions aren't going to be perfect, no matter how great I think they are. But just to have that support, good or bad, to have that support means a lot, because it gives you a lot of freedom when you know you can step out and make some changes. And I've made a few changes since I've been here. Not anything right or wrong with my predecessor, but I've just made some changes some efficiencies I thought, some things we hadn't done before, some things that I tried other places that worked well. And Jacob and the whole leadership team have been supportive. So it does mean a lot to have that support.
You didn't always work at FMPA. You've taken some different roads to get to where you are. You want to talk about your career path and energy?
Yeah, I will. And energy was not my first choice. So
You
those
didn't
of
go
you
to school.
listening,
You didn't go to school to work with FMPA
I
or the
didn't.
energy. I can't
Exactly.
imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
Exactly. I really came nowhere near. I started off going to law. I can't believe you all are lawyers that I was talking to just now, because law was my first choice. Perry Mason was like my favorite show growing up. So I asked some of my lawyer mentors, what should I do? And they said, well, accounting would be a good undergraduate major and then go to law school. So I did. I went to, got my undergraduate in accounting, but really liked the accounting field. So I just stuck with the accounting field, got my master's, got my CPA, and just stayed with accounting. So when I came out of college, I started an internal audit at a bank, loved it. I was going to get my CPA, and I go, wow, if I'm going to be a CPA, I want to work for a CPA firm. So I left the bank and went to one of the it was big 8 at the time, big 4 now, CPA firms, worked there for a couple of years. I discovered that probably wasn't going to be my long term. The environment wasn't my long term. And I wasn't looking for a job, to be honest. I probably should have been, because at 2 years is when they kind of cut people, cut fish, you cut at that time. But a friend of mine who was working at OUC at the time had an opening for internal audit at OUC. And she asked me, you interested? I said, well, yeah. I applied, got the job, and I was at OUC for 25 years. So the energy industry was not in my purview at all. I ended up at OUC through my accounting and auditing background, and stayed there. At OUC, I was in the accounting audit field. I realized the CFOs, my current CFO and his predecessor, both came through the finance side. So my big move, and really bold move, was to ask to move from accounting over to the finance side.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I have to credit my boss at the time for having confidence in me. I didn't have any experience on the finance side, but the people who worked on the finance side all were very experienced. So I asked to be moved over as their supervisor, which can be a little uncomfortable when you're supervising people who have a lot more experience. But what I did, I leveraged their experience. I go, hey, they know it. I'm going to learn from them. And I pursued my certified treasury professional. Really, it was a way for me to have a structured way to learn some of the finance that I did not know, because I wanted a little bit more credibility with the people I was supervising. So I took a review course, got my certified treasury professional license. And then I did feel like I could talk a little bit more of the finance lingo. I learned a lot in a quick period of time. Actually, some of my staff were a little impressed. They didn't think I could do it that quickly, but it did give me some credibility with them. But it really gave me a good bank of knowledge. And I really, at that time, realized I like the finance side a lot better than the accounting side. But the accounting side helped me. I used my accounting and my finance, and that's kind of where I was headed. Then my real goal after that was to be CFO. Once I moved over to the finance side, I started pursuing that. I really enjoyed the learning about the energy industry, and through issuing bonds is where I really learned a lot about the industry itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really how I got my start in the energy.
Well, Linda, there's so much in what you said in terms of lessons for our viewers who might be just in school or just graduated and looking for a
Mm-hmm.
career path. I heard you say you remained flexible. You
Mm-hmm.
thought you were going into law. You went a different direction because you liked it, and that was your preference. So
Right.
you didn't pursue a curriculum because you thought you wanted to be a lawyer. You stayed
Right.
flexible.
Yeah.
I heard you talk about risk, taking that risk to go work with OUC. And for viewers who don't know what OUC is, Orlando Utilities
Mm-hmm.
Commission, there, the municipal in Central Florida. I also, this is, many women struggle with this, right? I also heard you say you asked for a
Mm-hmm.
job. You
Mm-hmm.
asked to be considered for something. And women, we struggle with that
We do.
sometimes, right?
We do. Yeah.
And then the fourth thing I heard, if I could number them, was you weren't afraid to learn from your peers or folks that were already there, and you asked
Yep.
questions, and
Mm-hmm.
really a sponge in terms of what
Yep.
they were able to pass
Absolutely.
on to you.
Yeah,
You
probably
are
annoyed
some
them a
important
little bit,
lessons.
but it was the way for me to learn. And I was very respectful of their expertise. I knew they knew it. They knew a lot more than I did, but I did take the position to learn from them, but also took the position that, hey, I'm going to be aggressive and learn myself. And that was the reason for me I didn't need another certification. I had my MBA, I had my CPA, but the certified treasury professional, I think help them see me in a different light because I'm supervising them. I wanted to get that level of knowledge so that I, one, talk the lingo and just have a better understanding of what they were doing. And it did change quite a bit once I got that certification. They saw me like, hey, I'm really serious. And she's willing to put in the work to try to get some of this knowledge that we learned over years. So it was a risk. And again, my boss at the time probably took the biggest risk because he put me over an area that I didn't have experience in. But I proved that he made a good decision. So.
And
And
he,
I had a good track record before making that move too. I
yeah.
think that helped as ladies, if you're thinking of making a move, make sure you've done well where you are first. And then it's a little bit easier, I think, to ask for something else.
And it helps the champion make that case for you,
Absolutely.
right? To be very
Absolutely.
inclusive and, I
Hmm.
always say plucking people out and making sure that they have an opportunity
Exactly.
to rise to their
Exactly.
full potential. So we
Exactly.
have our first question, Linda. I told you we get
Okay.
questions from our viewers,
Okay.
and I would encourage more questions.
Okay.
There's a Q&A box, viewers on the live channel. Please submit your questions. We'd love to have them. Here's
Yes.
the first one, and it's a tough one, Linda. So when
Okay.
you first began your career, you might have been the only woman in the room.
Hmm.
Were you the only Black woman in the room?
Almost always, and most of the time I still am, unfortunately. That's the one thing I want to work on changing, and I am trying to groom is not the right word, but I am trying to encourage others to not follow in my steps, but to really stretch themselves and be at the very top of their game in whatever field they choose to be in. So I am not the only woman anymore. There are a lot of women. A lot of that's thanks to some of the work that Lila does. But for African American women, there are still very few at my level and in the finance industry in general. So
Right.
that is something I'm working to change. I do some work with the Florida Government Finance Officers Association, where I was the president a couple of years ago. And we are trying to encourage Black women to step up into finance roles in government and leadership finance roles in government. And I'm seeing some additions there, but still that's an area that we're working on. Lila, if I might say, I'm also a member of the National Association of Black Accountants.
Mm-hmm.
And NABA's motto is lifting as we climb. And that was really, I was a
I like
founding
that.
member of our chapter here in Orlando. And that's really my mantra and really my kind of goal is to lift
Lifting
other
as
people
we
as
climb.
lifting it.
Lifting
So
as we climb.
as I go up, I'm trying to bring somebody else up. I do a lot of mentoring with high school students. We try to expose them to as much as we can. And anybody who wants anything that I have, I'm glad to do it. My goal really is to help people be their best. Whatever they're trying to do, I want to try to help them get there. So I am still in the minority in terms of numbers, and I really do want to change that.
So for those of you that may want to contact Linda directly, her email address is streaming there at the bottom of the screen. Just a wealth of information and great ideas and real life experience where we can share with one another these stories that help us stay informed and inspired so that we are motivated to ask for that
Absolutely.
next position.
Mhm.
um, Linda, so to be the only Black woman in some parts of the industry probably also creates burden isn't really the word I'm looking for, but a responsibility
Mhm.
for you to go out of the way to create maybe mentorship opportunities or
Mhm.
being someone else's
Mhm.
champion.
Yep.
Do you feel like organizations now are more supportive of the need for that, or maybe establishing employee resource
Mhm.
groups that help with professional development? I've
Uh,
noticed that.
yeah.
I notice more and more of that
Mhm.
now.
I certainly think the environment is really ripe for that now. Our organization, we put forth some things. I think our organization here has been receptive of that, and some of our members. I mean, our organization itself is small, but we have 31 member city. So there's a big stretch there. And I think right now is a right time. If you have the skills, organizations, I think, are open to make sure they are being more watchful so that they can enhance their diversity if they don't have it. And for those who have minorities, to really pay more attention to them and try to help develop them. One of the things I recommend to our organization is when we are hiring to make sure we're looking at, we don't hire a lot from college because most of our people here have experience already. So where can we go to get experienced people? NABA, National Association of Black Accountants, is one of them. Black engineering societies. Look where the African Americans are. If we don't look there, they won't know about a company like FMPA. So we may need to go look for them. And FMPA has been receptive to that idea that we're at least 2 or 3 of those professional organizations. We'll include them in any of our potential hiring. When we have a hiring need, we want to make sure we go to these professional organizations that have seasoned professionals who might fit the bill that we're looking for and not realize that we're here.
That addresses, we do hear sometimes from organizations, not necessarily energy at all. We
Mhm.
hear it. We've all heard it from
Mhm.
organizations. Well, no
Yeah,
one applies. I can't
exactly.
find a
Exactly.
minority. And what you just addressed is, well,
Mhm.
where are you looking
Exactly.
and
And I
how are
think
you
that's the problem.
advertising?
I think that's the problem because I think there are plenty of qualified African Americans and other minorities as well, particularly focused on African Americans. There are plenty out there, but I do think companies may, and some of them just may not know where to look. I'm in a position that I know, hey, these are some organizations that we should be partnering with when we have openings because they have qualified minorities who might be a good addition to our team. But other organizations do need to look where they are. If you don't look for where they are, of course, you won't find them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So college students, I know, for the high wage jobs, when you get into the leadership positions and executive management, obviously you've got a wonderful talent pool from within the organization or maybe
Mhm.
lateral hires that you're looking at. But for those entry level positions, what advice would you give that second year college student who really needs to keep an open mind about segments of the industry that were
Mhm.
not heretofore considered traditional
Right.
um, places of opportunity?
I definitely say be open minded. I think that's real key. But I would press upon college students to try to intern whenever you can, even if it's not the same place, of course, if you do a repetitive internship, that enhances your chance of getting a job if you like it and it's a good fit. But try to get the internships as early as they will allow them. That experience will really benefit you. It may be some hard lessons, but at least you'll learn them before you get into the workforce. One of the things that NABA does, and I brag on NABA because these are some things they
Mhm.
do because we partner with businesses and they tell us. They had told us years ago with NABA that some of the students that interviewed, they didn't interview well. They didn't present themselves well. So what we do, we try to train our students ahead of their interviews. We do mock interviews with them. We make sure we tell them how to dress. We give them some tips on how to research a company so they'll be prepared to answer a question about the company and they'll be able to to ask questions about the company so the company knows they spent some time doing some research. But without that training, some of our students were just going into interviews blind and they were failing. But now they get internships from big companies. There's a southern region that happens in Atlanta every year. Many companies come, huge companies come, and many of our students get internships or entry level positions. The other thing that we encourage our students to
Getting the
do,
foot in the door. Get the foot in the door.
get the foot in the door. And once you get the foot in the door, try to learn the culture of the organization first before you try to make drastic changes. Sometimes some of our young
That's
people, because they have great
wonderful.
ideas,
Hmm.
don't try to come in the door making changes. Try to come in the door and make sure you understand the culture. Of course, you want to try to get a mentor, somebody at the organization that you can kind of turn to for help, but try to get a foot in the door, learn the organization before you try to make sweeping changes. And then the organization will be many organizations, not all of them, will be open for your new ideas because they know our young people are just filled with great ideas. And a lot of them will really turn companies around if they listen to them. But they have to have a little bit of confidence in you before you start making the sweeping idea
That's
changes.
wonderful advice
Mhm.
for any of us at any age, right? As you enter a
That's
new
right. That's
organization,
true.
yeah,
That's true.
get in and learn and have the trust and confidence of the team around you, and everything else sort of takes care of itself, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So, Linda, I have the Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum has
Mhm.
partnered with the Association of Blacks in Energy. Let me
Mhm.
just give a plug to ABE Florida.
Yeah.
There's a Florida
Yeah.
chapter.
Yep.
I've partnered with them to create an annual scholarship that is awarded
Great.
to one minority student every year, and we
Great.
present it at the forum, which
Mhm.
will be November 11th through the 13th. And
Yeah.
our first order of business will be to award that student a scholarship. And
Great.
I bring that up obviously because I do believe in sharing best practices. And even though this is an example of what Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum has done, the truth is organizations all over the state can do something very, very similar. And
Absolutely.
it's not very expensive, but it makes quite a difference in the life of a student. And I always say, in their families for generations to come. I
Absolutely.
don't know about you, Linda, but I certainly have felt it with my own immediate family when we get that college education, when we have a high wage, sustainable job,
Mhm.
we impact the economy in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And for generations to come, I'd like to think that our families take that and grow it and, pay it forward in their own way.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. I had we haven't gotten to my book yet, but I had a pretty challenging summer. One of the unfortunate things that happened just recently was my father passed away.
I'm sorry.
And remembering my dad, one of the things he really drove home was education. And he said he want all of us to go to college if we could, or get some kind of special degree. And we were pretty successful of the 7 kids. And he didn't have even a high school education, a lot of wisdom, not formal education, but he really pressed that. Even when I was a little girl, I knew I was going to college, didn't know how, because didn't even really know what college was, but I knew I was going. So he really propelled a generation, and all of us, like I said, got an education. And then, of course, both of my daughters went to college,
Mhm.
and most of my nieces and nephews, several of them have gone. But that push for excellence stays with you, and the education is one of the keys. You hear that over, and I hope sometimes people get sick of hearing it, but education really is the key. Not just the formal education, but formal education is a big starter to get a lot of jobs. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten any of my jobs without it. There were other things that went into getting the education. One of them was relationships, which is another big key. One of my professors at UCF, when I graduated, talked to the person at Sunbank that I interviewed, and that's the only reason I got the job. That they had a personal relationship. I went to the interview and was offered the job, but I was qualified. So you want to be qualified first. A good connections make a big difference, and then having the interview skills. And there's just a lot that you can say behind the education and
No,
connections. So,
absolutely.
yep.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yep.
for sharing
Mhm.
that personal story.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the book. I'm so excited about your book. And so, viewers, you need to know that Linda's book is titled My Life Wrapped in God's Favor.
Mhm.
And what an appropriate title for a book that you've authored. You
Yeah.
are just, I see why you picked that title, especially
Yeah.
having heard your passionate story about the influence of your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, am I guessing correctly? What inspired you to write that book?
You know, that's a good. I hadn't thought about what inspired me. Just so many things, because the book it's been in the making for a long time. So don't give up if you have a book, because I had started the book years ago, put it down, picked it back up. But what kind of, I don't know what pushed me over the edge, because God gave me the title to the book some years ago, and I had just been recalling all of the blessings I had in my life, and there were so many of them. They were just almost running me down. Not stuff that I had done, but I just had been blessed. And I wanted to share, one, to let God know I was appreciative of his blessings, but also I wanted to kind of awaken maybe his blessings. Other people might be taking them for granted. And what I tried to highlight in the book is some of the things he's blessed me with. Maybe you had something similar and you really ignored it, or you didn't acknowledge that, hey, wow, this was God's favor.
Mhm.
It was not really something I did. And as I looked at my steps that I've taken in my, not just even before college, just in my childhood, like I say, blessed with my parents. Um, my parents were married until my father passed away. They had been married 67 years. I
Mhm.
had the honor of knowing 3 of my grandparents that were living when I was born. So we had some good family traditions. One of my side of my family has family reunion every year. So we just had so many blessings. family, job success, education success. In every area that I looked at, there were some successes, and I just really wanted to give God praise for what he had done, but also again wanted to encourage other people to look at your life. A lot of times we are looking at what we don't have, but this book really you want to look at some of the things that you do have and acknowledge those. And when you start thinking about what you do have, I think a lot of times the things that you don't have really kind of fall out of your sight. You don't really pay as much attention when you start counting all the things you have, and that's really what kind of drove me. What made me do it this year is because I'm a good planner, and the fact that it took me so long to write the book was irritating me. So I go, hey, I'm doing the book this year, and I had the book just about done in March. It was just about ready, and then disaster struck. For most of you, it was the pandemic. For me, it was my husband got critically ill and was in the hospital for 3 weeks, very ill. So my hold was not having anything to do with COVID, but it was at the same time, about that same week that we had the lockdown here in Central Florida was the day my husband went to the hospital. So all my focus was on him. So we just kind of held the presses on the book. We had some finishing touches to do, but after he got out of the hospital, took a break. Then I got with and I had someone helping me not write it, but she helped me with how to get it to Amazon, checking the spelling, the editing, that sort of thing. So we just kind of held off to after my husband got out of the hospital. Thank God he got out, made a full recovery. Then I got the book published. So it was and that part wasn't in the book because I had finished it before he got sick. But again, that was another example of God's favor.
Yeah, exactly. You described, all of that as you're a great planner. It's discipline and commitment. I hear from you. It seems to me you are the kind of woman that when you put your mind to something, you're going to do it.
Absolutely. Sometimes at all costs. And I did give one example in the book. Well, it's like, wait, you could have just waited to next year to do that. And I was like, wow. But I am sometimes a little fanatical. That has some pros and cons, as my husband will tell you. You really didn't matter whether you did that today or tomorrow. But for me, I want to get it done. So if I have a deadline, I do pretty much emphasize the deadline. I have learned a little bit that some of the deadlines can slide or can change. I shouldn't say slide.
Your team is not listening to that right now. No.
I know it. They don't hear that, right? But all the deadlines are not life critical, and that's something that I really did have to kind of learn the hard way. So I can delay them or I can alter them without changing the end. Still going to get there. So I'm learning that.
You're going to love this question. Jacob is not going to love this question. So we have a question from the audience. So this person wants to know what's next for Linda Howard. I'm thinking this is someone that's going to try to offer you a position and coach you. So Jacob is probably like freaking out right now. But
no, I'm very comfortable where I am. Linda? Yeah. Hey, I love where I am, and I love where I am. On this platform allows me to do a lot of things I could not do otherwise. So me on this where I am now, I get the opportunity with good support from Jacob to still do outreach, like I say, with NABA, with the FGFOA, with my sorority that I'm in. And really my goal is to try to help people be the best that they can be. I do a lot with scholarships. I do a lot of fundraising to get scholarships because I don't want that to be the reason young people don't go to college. I started this years ago. I was going to start a charity to help young people who have ideas, but they don't know what to do with them. And then my youngest daughter came to me and said, hey, I want to start a charity to help sick kids. Mm-hmm. Guess what? That ended up being my focus. We helped her start a charity called Beads for Beats. It helps terminally and chronically ill kids. And that was my project, to help. My daughter at the time was 13 years old, and her heart was to help kids who were sick. So I should have put Beads for Beats up there, her charity. We just had our 5th annual run this past Saturday. This was our first virtual run.
Put it in the comments when you
I will.
If you play this back or go back to the Facebook.
Okay. But we had our 5K fundraiser. We support kids, like I said, who are terminal or chronically ill at Florida, I'm sorry, I said Florida Hospital, Advent Health, and UCP of Central Florida. So we try to support the kids and their families. But that was a goal she had at 13 years old. She knew there was a need, but she didn't know anything about how to start a charity, how to get a 501(c)(3). She didn't know any of that, how to get a board. So my husband and I helped get all of the business started. And then it's her ideas that she's promoting through the board and through volunteers to help families who are struggling with terminally ill or chronically ill kids. So
Well, you
my
did
goal is
good, Mom.
really to
That's you playing a major influence,
exactly.
obviously, in her life, and then hopefully she playing an influence in the lives of others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She does. She may usurp me, as they say, because I think she has a heart as big as mine or bigger. So she's reaching out to help these families and doing a lot for them. And she has such a dynamic personality that she really kind of brings it all together along with her creative ideas. So but really my work life, I'm very happy where I'm work life. It does allow me the opportunity to help. Um, we had a lot of opportunities over the summer to help those who in Central Florida. I know quite a few people who work in the hospitality industry who lost their job or lost their income for a while. So we were, try to do what we can to help them. And my goal really is to help. So I'm use this job, the finances from
So
the
you're
job.
saying Jacob can take a sigh of relief and not worry about it. That's okay.
Yeah, Jacob,
We'll,
sigh
we'll,
relief.
we'll, we'll let
Absolutely.
him. The book. So even if there are people out there who don't want to write a book, but it seems to me the process you went through of self-reflection and just
Hmm.
forcing yourself to acknowledge the blessings, reflect on your own life, your own career,
Hmm.
had to have been a healthy
Uh,
experience.
oh
I
yeah.
personally think just taking a time out. It's my friend and I. I'm gonna drop her name here, Simone. Simone and I we take road trips when we just want to self reflect. I like
Good.
a good
Good
road
idea.
trip, and it's a very small example of sometimes you just have to reassess, and I have to
Absolutely.
believe that book was some of that for you.
Absolutely was. And I think people should do that periodically. I don't know. You don't have to write a book to do that. I mean, at least every year, sometimes more than that if something is going on, but at least once a year, I think everybody should do that. It may not be as in depth, but I think that self-reflection is very helpful. It helps you kind of see where you're going, but it also gives you an opportunity to change your course if you need to as well. So no, the self-reflection to me is invaluable. I don't, I wouldn't pass on it. It does take a little bit of time. And it does take some courage because you may find some things in your self-reflection, as I do, and you will if
Mhm,
you take a deep look that aren't so good. Then
mhm.
you want to.
You
But for
readjust. So
me,
then adjust.
that just makes
You
it this is something that I want to work on. I really didn't like the way I handled that this past year or so. So now I'm gonna take a different look on it. So I think the self-reflection is invaluable.
So where can people find your book?
They can find my book on Amazon.com and just put in the title and it'll come up. My Life Wrapped in
There
God's
it is.
Favor.
There it
The,
is.
the the book will come up and you can get the Kindle version or the hard copy version.
How convenient. It matches the colors of the Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum.
Ah,
That was nice. I like how our production company has put it inside the logo.
exactly.
So
It's cute, cute.
let's come back and talk about your CFO role. So
Mhm.
if you could look into a crystal ball with regard to the financial issues that are impacting the energy industry, what are
Mhm.
the things that keep you up at night in that regard, Linda?
Well, they probably keep Jacob up more than me, but the cost of energy is one of them. That's the biggest one we have. Clean energy, I think, is a major driver. We know people want it. How do they get clean energy at an affordable cost? That's kind of the challenge. People want it, but they don't want to pay for it. So you got the cost is a really big issue. Technology is a big issue in every industry, every job, everywhere. So technology, I think, is really advanced. And sometimes we're trying to catch up with technology, but we're really trying to make sure we use technology. And you'll see a lot of innovative things coming, like the automated meter reading.
Right.
Of course, that was technology. A lot of the billing now, technology, payments, technology. So you have a lot of things that are going to be driven by technology. We do have regulatory environment that it's always been a big area for any utility, but the regulatory environment is something that we just have to keep our eye on. Regulations change, regulations can be complex. So the regulation that governs us, we have to make sure we're in compliance with that. And then skills of our staff, I think, are the other key
Yeah,
factors. Making
your
sure,
workforce pipeline.
yeah, make sure we have workforce that can do the job that needs to be done, that are keeping up with the changes that are happening, and that we can still meet our main goals again, are this reliable, clean, and low cost power. So those are the things that I are the biggest concerns, because they have big dollars with them, but they also will be the determination whether our entity remains relevant for the long haul.
Right. How much were you impacted by COVID? And you're considered an essential worker. Your
Yep.
organization, essential workers.
Yep. Yep.
So you probably didn't have a lot of remote work, but were
Well,
you impacted?
yes, we were. I mean, I think everybody was impacted. What we did as an agency, we did work remotely for about 2 months. We had a lot of remote access was already in place, which was good because, with hurricanes and disasters, we had to make sure we have ability to work for short periods of time remotely anyway. So almost all of our workforce was prepared to work remotely, at least short term. As an organization, we did just the agency, we did work remotely for about 2 months. And then in phases brought everybody back because, as you said, we are essential. Now, people at the plants, unfortunately, they cannot work remotely. The plant operators actually have to be there to operate the plants. So we had some of the plant staff who weren't able to work remotely. They had to be there. We did try to take all precautions in terms of safety precautions, up to and including, people at the plants kind of limiting their travel, limiting their interaction with large groups, make sure they have on all the protective gear when they do go out. And then we as employees tried to make sure we were taking personal responsibility. I was fortunate to have our youngest daughter was at home, so all this ordering stuff and having it delivered, she kind of got us so we didn't have to go out, which was good. With someone sick, you didn't want to have to go out anyway. So we started doing a lot of ordering of groceries and essential stuff so it could come to the house and we didn't have to go out and be in the crowds. I did try to walk almost every day, but I took my face mask with me. If I wasn't able to stay away from someone, I would put my mask on and then take it off when I was free in my walking and running. But we did have to do some remote working here at the office. A lot of our projects, though, are cross-functional, and it was not as productive for us to stay remotely long-term. So we did bring everybody back into the office.
Yeah. Linda, you're such an inspiration. I don't just listening to all the things that you've done and that you're doing, and of course, maintaining a healthy personal life as well. Just listening to that is exhausting. You're such an inspiration. I ask every guest because we get this question every week. What's the secret to your maintaining that healthy personal and work balance?
Well, you said it. It's balance. Balance really is the key. Balance and priorities. I mean, I know that I can't do anything without God. He's my first, and whoever your first is, that's the first priority. I value my family. Um, I value my job, so I want to do a good job, and I value my friends. But I do think priorities and balance is the real key. If you know what your priorities are, you work other things around your priorities, and you create the balance that you want. Now, the other thing that's helpful for me, I know everybody doesn't have it. I am a very disciplined person, and I like structure. So for me, having a schedule or I hate to say it, but it's a to-do list that helps me get things done. But I do get a lot of things done. So for me, it's worked. For some other people, it doesn't work as well. But for when people come to me and they say, you're really disciplined. I'm not disciplined. How can you help me? I do tell them we need to come up with a plan, and then we monitor the plan. One of the things I've done that I thought was most impactful some years ago, I used to meet with my staff once a month, and I call them goal updates. The staff hated them at first because it was kind of to go over their work goals, but I also asked them to share one personal goal with me, not for me to be nosy, but I wanted to let them know that I cared about them personally, and I am a good goal person. So I wanted to help them reach a personal goal. One of my staff, who was my assistant at the time, had a really difficult life. And she said she always wanted to go back to school. She had, a young mother, had some kids, and she just wasn't able to do it. So I helped her set up a plan to go back to school. She went back to school, got her bachelor's degree, her master's degree, and her doctor's degree. And she said she owed all of that to having that game plan from you, that she said, Linda, you helped me with the game plan. Once I got the game plan, because she was very bright. She knew that she just didn't have a plan. And she kind of took that game, and she tells everybody that those goal updates that I hated, but they helped me stay on track.
You
They
heard it
helped me.
here,
She
folks.
said
That's the best practice right there.
it was, so it helped her stay on track. And she also knew that every month when we met, I was going to ask her about, yes, her work goals, but I was also going to inquire about those personal goals. And so she wanted to make sure she had something to say on the personal goals. So it kind of forced her. It was accountability. I was an
It
accountability
held her
part.
accountable. That's
It
right.
did. It did.
Mhm.
So it's, to me, it works. It's successful. You may not do it for everything, but if you have something that's real important to you, setting those goals and interim goals is going to be the key to get there.
There you go. What a way to end the program. Appreciate you. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
leadership. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that you do, not just for FMPA, but for the state and for the community at large.
Thank
Thank you. It's a
thank
pleasure
you.
to have you.
Thank you for the invite.
Okay, folks, remember to register for the Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum. You can register at flwomeninenergy.com November 11th through the 13th. We'll see you then. Bye bye.